All right, welcome everybody. Thank you kindly for your time being here. I'm excited to get into things. This is the Stacks Governance Working Group call number 71. And we usually get into some stand-ups, catch up with what folks have been up to. It's usually exciting to see where folks are, see anything new pop up for folks. I can start us off. We've been working pretty diligently in advocates and getting together some issues for our next round of decision making and consensus flows in the tooling. Some of our recent sessions have been dedicated to coordinating some of these efforts, extending some of the things we have, like the welcoming team and things like this from Hero that are already in place, but can be a little bit more specialized, introducing folks into tooling in a more consistent way, along with introducing folks into the system in general, which is what it's currently doing. The buddy system, the welcoming team, that is. Previous weeks, we were wrapping up some issues, getting some one-pagers out of the way, diagrams to go with them, so that we have some really fleshed out proposals to go through our consensus flows and the clan design that we're using, and still testing, but very much the tooling has been in use and been effective for important advocates' decision-making structures when it comes to things in the pool or approaches to distribution of pool rewards at the end of every week. And so make sure we get Haas in here. This is some of what we've been up to. And amongst some of those issues have been the much awaited task creation or bounties board work that we've been thinking about for a long time, and really started to get some tooling for implementation underway with how's it's called the micro DAOs and the bot commands that allow you to interact with clarity right inside of the Discord server. So we've been trying to get some one pages together, describing this tooling and the flows as best as possible. Really trying to bring bottom-up decision-making that we have in our consensus flows into that model for what we're calling journeys, or what could be an alternative to grants, alternative paths to community grants, and with a whole lot of community, built-in community support and things like this. We also spent a lot of time on what will be, in addition to our code of conduct, which are oral recitations of core values, concepts, building in not just a lecture style recitation, but a dialogue style recitation as important means to a point of reference in consensus, to not just your standard rules or structures of the code of conduct, but some of these deeper points of continuity, right, of understanding and approaches in general for advocates, which has a capacity to keep evolving, change for circumstances that be added to from individual circumstances in the dialogue of those oral recitations. And so this is something we're excited to add into some of our code of conduct efforts, directly inspired from what we understand of the importance of oral constitutions in the Native context, but also Primavera's research in the idea of alegal approaches or in-between spaces, executional theory when it comes to legal frameworks, but also the organization of and the preservation of community values in the context of conventional institutional legal structures. And so a lot of exciting things there to get into. Potentially, we have some symbolism and things like this that we started to create and dialogue about that can hopefully facilitate some of that, some of our first implementations of this. So maybe we get into a little bit of the updates there. But yeah, it's beautiful to see you guys, and excited for any updates on you guys' end. Yeah. Yeah. Read that out. Let me get a good look at participants here. Um, but yeah, I tend to leave out blockers as well, but can't foresee any blockers to some of the things you want to get done coming up through. I think some of the coordination efforts are going to be the most arduous things that could potentially block any of these issues going through the flows as quick as possible. But we've started to coordinate on you know getting some of those barriers down in recent meetings, as mentioned. So yeah, over the next 2 weeks, hopefully we also see a move towards selection of representatives and things like this if we can get some clan flows going in these weeks coming. But yeah, I'll keep the floor open for any updates. I know there's been some. There will be a continued SIP meeting coming up. We're discussing a little bit. This is folks are coming in, but yeah, I'll leave the floor open.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe I can talk a little bit about SIP stuff. So now we're getting into a routine of having a weekly SIP community call. And it gives people an update into some of the governance stuff relating to the core technology. And yeah, this week there will be Taproot is a topic. So yeah, so that's what I'm hosting this week. So I'll be inviting Rena onto the talk. So hopefully she'll give us, because she is the one who tabled the draft SIP proposal for Taproot integration. So yeah, and also other efforts in moving on SIP process to get it more extensive and more holistic and more thorough and more of a process in place, so people are clear where they need to go, how the process happens from even just a simple idea. So yeah, so I'm helping on that front of things, and I'm inviting relevant people onto the call because I think, for example, like a topic of the week like Taproot, I'm trying to get relevant people onto the call so they can be more informed, and also they can have a good discussion so that the time spent is much more productive for everyone. Yeah, so having said that, that's not like I haven't been confirmed as a SIP president yet, so yeah, we'll see. But at least that's what I'm doing prior to that. And yeah.
Thank you kindly, man. It's beautiful to hear those meetings coming into shape and form. Yeah, it seems like a beautiful approach to have folks come in with some expert lens on things, and usually, yeah, I think it lends to some productive, some productive sparks, to say the least, right? Folks are able to bring some complex things into some concise words. So it's beautiful to see this coming into form. So thank you kindly, Hero. And I'm looking
Yeah,
forward.
so just like generally keeping a tab on the SIP GitHub, really, as well. That's see if anybody made any new comments or new issues or pull request. Sort of just monitoring and learning as I go. Yeah.
All right. Let us know too if there's any coordination efforts. Maybe advocates can come into the fray too in terms of, consistent flow of folks to come into those meetings, right? In terms of just finding the folks that can connect you if you need be. I don't know if you've come into any of those issues yet, but yeah, this is something exciting to think about consistently, right? So thank you kindly, Hero. Yeah. So looking forward to some more of this. But yeah, it's good to see you, Haas. The file in. Hope all is well, man. Let us know if you have any stand-ups or anything, or feel free to just pass. But yeah, if there's nothing else from folks, we can move on. But I'll leave the floor open one last time.
Hey there. No shit.
We can hear you. Or we could. You'll see your mic. But yeah, let us know if you have anything to share. If not, I don't know if that was a pass, one of your patented passes. But yeah, we can get into things, see if any of these issues that we tend to go through sparks anything else. I know we've had some good conversations on this in recent sessions. I don't know if there's anything else that has come about in this regard. I think there was meetings was where we left off, but this is some exciting, I think, reigniting of these efforts in a very comprehensive way, Hero, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just if you're talking about community representatives or having community's voice heard and nothing's been done about it, I just think it's just so weird. Like since I being on the call and it's been brought up, so I just want to do something about it. So yeah, so far I have talked to Hero. I've talked to Sleepy. I've talked to another guy called Bowtie Sir Jonathan. He's more like on the developer side, but he has the same mentality like, yeah, we should be helping new people. And he thinks the same way I think about the user side of things, I guess, the non-developers. But yeah, I think together, well, I just think I'm trying to get a better sense of how to make it a productive group. So yeah, I'm sort of trying to think on that front. I know there are a lot of people I can tap into, but I don't want to create something that it's like a burden on people and doing extra work. Like I want to make it actually beneficial to everybody, and including the Hero and Foundation. So the most ideal situation is that each entities, whether it's Trust Machines, Hero, or Foundation, everybody can have a better sense of the community, and the community, they can have a direct voice to the big entities involved. So yeah, I'm just trying to speak to a few different people and sort of slowly shape that. So that's what I'm trying to do on that front. But it's doing it with or without Foundation. I do hope that Foundation has at some point a representative, because currently we have a representative from Hero, who is Joey. He's like the community manager, and he tends to sort of manage, or he wants to grow the developer community. He wants to get closer to the communities in Stacks from Hero perspective. So I think I can work with him. So I do think it's probably beneficial from each and big entities to have somebody in this group. We just need to figure out how each group can actually benefit from it. So maybe each group needs to have a clear goal, what they want to get out of it, and making sure like we are all getting something productive out of it. And is it something to, is it like a group to just amplify events, or is it a group to talk about a weekly update on what's happening in the communities, or in the big entities, so that it's like almost like a communication sort of center kind of thing. So I'm just trying to work out together along with other people slowly how the purpose of this group. But yeah, if you guys have any idea, please let me know.
Yeah, no, thank you kindly, Hero. Continuing to think about this so deeply. Something came to mind from our last sessions in Advocates, where we kind of discussed how the function of the well, or this function of active issues tooling that we have in our system design thinking and Advocates, which I know you mentioned as well in your all of your writings on getting something together here. And so maybe it's getting a little bit clearer on just how this can touch advocates in the sense of those consistent issues, right? Having a few different consistent angles. Like we discussed upskilling, or the welcoming team and buddy system, in this way, being these avenues for to constantly look for issues to be brought into decision making, brought into comprehensive proposals of action. And there were this seems like maybe another angle, right, for to look to monthly perhaps, right? And there's also that opt-in that we discussed for the potential representatives and advocates from the advocates end, which despite how many representatives are able to gather from the other entities, we'll be able to take hopefully a big chunk out of the responsibilities or efforts or burden that you referenced, right? With folks that we know who have opted into some of the coordination and facilitation efforts. So I don't know if that resonates with you anyway, and just thinking of the other ways we were thinking about it important issues that are worth having consistently on the table monthly, right? And leveraging the clan flows to do so. So maybe this is something we think about. I know myself and you have been thinking about these coordinating efforts as well. And a lot of times that include, reaching out to folks less familiar with what's going on in the clan design. So yeah, maybe this is something to think about. But yeah, it's my 2 cents, I guess.
Yeah, cool. We can have a think offline how we could get Stacks Advocates side of help, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, I mean, this seems, Yeah, I mean, it just seems like a point. I know you've mentioned it before, but in some of those recent discussions we've had, it seems maybe it's getting a little bit clearer how we can do it.
Yeah, I just don't want it to be left not nothing is moving on. So as long as we're trending the right direction, then it's okay. I just couldn't stand it was standing, it was nothing being done
Right,
about
right.
it, and it was like standing still. So
Mhm.
as long as we are having the conversation, actually moving this thing onwards, then I think it's all good.
Right. Yeah, for sure. All right. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on this, but we'll leave the floor open. Um, Okay, we've had a lot of discussions around D-Work recently. There's some links to some of the testing in advocates that we've been doing here. Hiro, I know you've been playing with some of the configuration as well, maybe trying to uh, show some flows to speak to some of the concerns of advocates in terms of keeping up with what's going on. But I know it's just your standard Kanban board progress or work in progress type of stuff. So yeah, I don't know if you wanted to speak to any of this. Haas, I know you've been thinking hard about this as well. Uh, but yeah, we can speak on uh, some of the recent discussions and advocates around this, how we plan to incorporate it into some of the other um, uh, grants work, models, I should say, for grants. Um, but yeah, I'll leave the floor open before I give any 2 cents.
Okay. I don't want to keep talking, but Has, please jump in. But at least the way I can try and make, because we're seeing in Stacks Advocate, people are not, some people jumping in and out sort of on a monthly basis. Sometimes they come back after a few weeks. They are slightly out of touch with what's going on the one of the particular verticals or projects happening in Stacks Advocate. How can we quickly catch them up to the latest progress? That was what I was thinking. And how can like other people say Jude and can just jump in Stacks Advocate and see, oh, what other things are happening, and on a like a very quick overview, because currently if you really want an overview, there isn't a very easy way. And there are things to make it easier to view, such as the D-Work, and even on GitHub, you can have like different columns, which they're doing in Stacks 2.1 to manage projects. So you have like an in progress, done, and stuff, different columns. But I'm trying to find an even like a bigger overview way to display, and those also like give the point of access or who to contact. If somebody from a new Stacks Advocate want to jump into one of the verticals or efforts or initiatives, who do they contact and where do they go for that? Because each sort of initiative could be said like, go and speak to Haro is better, go and speak to Ryder or Haas, it's easier. So I'm trying to find a way to make like a display of everything going on, and also like what stage of process they're in and who to contact for more details. And just a very quick overview that you can send one link to anybody, foundation or an advocate, and they can quickly see where everything's at. So I'm playing around with another platform. So I will I'll show you guys once I made like a template.
Hey, beautiful night. Thank you. Good cliffhanger. Excited to see what that looks like. It sounds like it look nice on some of the outward facing content as well, right? Thinking of like an explore section or something like this on Notion or landing page of some kind. That seems like it go hand in hand with some of the things we've been thinking about. But yeah, Oz, I don't know how much you want to speak to this, but interrupt us anytime. I know in the previous advocate sessions, you were, thinking pretty hard in modifying the diagram that is going to be, you know, what people see when trying to digest how we've been thinking about journeys, but also how we've also been thinking about some type of task board. And we've been incorporating this language of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivations and incentive design for some time in advocates now. And so it's really hard to peel ourselves away from that when thinking of even a task board. So I know that that's one of the things that came up in the discussion of a task board, which is the tracking of rhythms, so to speak, as Haas would put it, in the tasks that are being done, and how important it's going to be to build in horizontal upskilling or what have you into some of the flows of the D work, right? Maybe it's just a culture building thing, but I think horizontalities, speaks a lot to folks, catching a rhythm in maybe a given task, but then getting connected to the right people, not unlike what Hero was mentioning, can lend itself nicely to maybe unforeseen upskilling of some kind, but also it lends itself to going from what may have been more extrinsic motivations for contributing to a given task that was needed in the ecosystem, to finding intrinsic motivations and incentives within the ecosystem, which lend themselves, more to long-term sustainability of community values and innovation, what have you. And so that's something exciting to be in dialogue and built in some way, some shape into even the task board part of advocates or grants and advocates. So it's something I'm excited to speak to and get out to folks if that weren't in those sessions. See if it sparks anything too. But yeah, leave the floor open. But yeah, thank you kindly, Hero. Excited to see what this looks like, bringing all these different flows together, some type of centralized view for folks. Sounds good. But, yeah. I think this Doxify theme is work from Jason. I think it's there for folks. It's okay to keep it here for folks that want to play with the theme, for folks that come into these sessions and see some of the, if people aren't aware, we have a fairly nice structure of documenting the videos and things like this that I try to keep up to date. And so it's just a general issue saying we can change this to make it look how we want it to look if we want to. And then I think you have been speaking to the meetings a lot, Hero, and you spoke briefly to making the SIS process a little bit more accessible. I don't know if you want to keep on talking, as you mentioned, but looking forward to that nonetheless. I know it's a big issue. I remember the forum post from Jude as well. So I know this is all a part of the same effort to really broaden who participates in these important processes. But yeah, I know that meeting would be huge for the recruiting processes, right, Hiro? And folks coming in with that expert lens would be good for broadening access as well, right? Hopefully. Yeah, if there's nothing, go ahead.
Yeah, so that particular effort, I think will happen over the course over the next few months or so. But yeah, I think I'll be working with Jenny on that. If I become the SIP president, that would be definitely on almost the roadmap over the Q3, Q4 almost. Yeah, just getting more people involved in the process, getting more people in place, because for example, Jude is on the technical CAB, but really like that technical CAB, well, because you can't be on the same, you shouldn't really be on the same thing as steering committee and the CAB. So Jude ideally just need to be on steering committee.
Please replace me.
Yeah, so we need to like find people to fill the gap in because Jude is on every CAB. And but it's okay, like, you know, like early on and stuff. But yeah, we need to find more people to replace Jude so we can relieve him of every task. But it's just better for decentralization as well. So yeah.
Something for the task board.
So actually on that front, like I can tell you, like, yeah, I'm already like thinking like I need to get in touch, need to speak more with the technical community. I mean, like deaf community, and spot people.
Beautiful, right? Beautiful. Maybe that's something to think about too when thinking of the task board and things like this. You know, yeah, there can be something, you know, targeting these specific needs or what have you, and specific demographics in the ecosystem, of course. But yeah, I guess some relief in the way of cabs, I'd imagine, especially how long each process for each cab can be, depending on the SIP. But yeah,
I think it's just a natural evolution, right? As we get bigger, we have more checks and balances in place. But yeah, it's all good.
Right. I think this is work from Juliet. We keep it up here in case we have any updates from her. I don't have anything in mind as of late. I know she's been right alongside us in some of the Advocates Code of Conduct work, and yeah, I know this is a little bit different. And we've been talking about the tooling indirectly, I guess, for a while here. For folks who haven't seen any of these updates, these are where you can find what has come out of a lot of our dialogues and sessions and advocates when it comes to starting to get together some issues in the queue, so to speak, to be passed through our consensus flows. A lot of what's been talked about today in the oral code of conduct and things like this can be found here, as well as some of the one pages and diagrams. So yeah, I don't know if we want to get into a little bit of this at all, but yeah.
I have a question about that, because I mean, like, I mean, the Stacks Advocate seeing it, and also here in this group. And so, for example, like with the Stacks Advocate governance, which is like you divide into male and female groups almost, and then you divide again into 3 groups for each gender. So they are like, and then you go from the female almost work with the male to table a motion or a proposal, and then that gets discussed and stuff. So that sort of setup, and that's the sort of the learning or the trial and testing we're doing there. So how can we take some of that and apply to Stacks governance? Is there somewhere something that can be applied?
So just general Stacks governance, like maybe SIPs process and things like this, right? Or
Yeah, I guess, yeah, or other things, I don't know.
Mhm.
Just where can we take some of that, and is there other places in SIP or somewhere in the ecosystem
Mhm.
that sort of way of coming to a decision or coming to a consensus can be applied? But yeah, maybe particularly the SIP process or the official sort of governance process.
Mhm. Yeah. And this is, I think, what came to mind earlier when you were speaking. You know, I think we caught a little a rhythm in the last discussion in seeing how the clan flows can be used for uh, ensuring the ecosystem doesn't have any points of complacency, right? Like there's a lot to be looking at any given month in the ecosystem, and to leverage uh, a, a place where folks are coming together on aligned values from disparate parts of the ecosystem makes sense. To have these fundamental points of consistent issues or uh, action oriented vigilance, right? Across the ecosystem. And the SIPS process seems, like just like we talked about the importance of upskilling and all of and what is all loaded into that, and when it comes to horizontality and long-term sustainability. We talked about a similar thing with just the welcoming team for good old accessibility to advocates. These stick out right away as like, okay, we should be able to look to an issue from this angle every month. Like it's so these are things that are so busy. So same thing with the SIPs process or the other general Stacks governance issues. We should be maybe looking to name these other points of fundamental streams of issues where it's like, okay, we didn't get an issue this month. There's obviously something going on there. So we have to I guess feel that that lack of issues, and to be able to feel that, it has to, I guess, be built in first. And to have some monthly rhythms start to spark up, maybe is the first means of getting this a little bit more uh, spread throughout the ecosystem. And I think the way it can be spread is through people feeling like that felt tangible access to voice and community empowerment, right? Like it hopefully organically percolate through the ecosystem as a tool, right? As a recognized useful tool. So naming those angles might be important for starting some of those inroads, right? So yeah, thank you kindly here before thinking that a little bit deeper in that regard.
Yeah, another inroad I can think of, like that can be possibly be applied, or taken from Stacks Advocate, because the Stacks Advocate is based on a very matrilineal process thinking, right? And that's basically a female sort of led kind of thinking, or mother. I don't know the exact definition of that, but essentially that's sort of like woman, sort of female voice, something like that, right? If my understanding is correct. And so for example, could one of this very simple enrolled, I don't know if it's applicable or appropriate, but like just a very simple thing, could it be like each CAP ideally advisable to have at least one female on each CAP, or something like we could end up simply having all CAPs be male. And do you think that could be you know, from the governance that you guys are learning or learn from, and me in Stacks Advocate, is basically we would like to have the female's voice in the decision making, right? So if all the CAPs, and by no means like CAPs are the only decision makers in the process, because there are many other people involved. But one of the things that could be taken from Stacks Advocate could be like just simply having a more advised, recommended inclusion of female voice in the CAPs. I don't know. What does everybody think?
Yeah, I think it's important, right?
And also, like I think like we could easily end up having all the CAPs be male, and that would be probably not that most ideal situation, right?
No, I think it's important to think seriously, you know, about what might be called diversity, right, in a Web3 space. And I think one of the ways to think about it seriously, or to approach it seriously, is through building it in, you know, design-wise, consciously. And obviously, we in the native context, we found a very unique way of doing this, right? This preservation of autonomy. It's not just women's voices, but the voices of regeneration, this concept of regeneration, right, in general. It's important for sustained innovation even, right? And understanding this sequencing in any given approach. If you don't understand how to sustain it, right, you know, it's not so conducive to, you know, some of the values, right, of maintaining integrity of community values, or even, you know, potentially, you know, protocol integrity, right, down the line. And so I think it's important to think about diversity for those tangible reasons. And you know, I think it's possible that there can be an organic trend, right, towards every CAP considering you know, this regenerative step, right? But I think it would have to happen in the most organic way, and you know, through the advocates' protocols of decision making, right, we have ensured these autonomous processes that then come together, and so we know that in our flow of decision making, right, there will be voices of this regenerative concept, these female voices, this matrilineal design, right, is built in, and so maybe hopefully that sparks that organic trend towards this being, you know, thought about seriously, but also just engendering the participation at all, right? The fact that a steady stream of SIP issues through advocates, right, monthly, will be in front of you know, as many people as possible in the ecosystem, right? Encourages and hopefully engenders the diversity that you're speaking to, right? So yeah, maybe that's a way of of achieving it organically. But I don't see there's anything wrong either with, you know, you know, through the a SIP angle, right? Engendering participation in the advocates processes, particularly, you know, keep an eye on that demographics, right? Not getting tilted towards any too drastically towards any direction. But I think that that tends to be the case, right? In open source in general. And so, yeah, I think the very least we can do is build in or start to name some autonomous processes and see if that, you know, has an impact on how folks organize themselves within the cabs, right? And so there's the autonomy of the cabs as well, I guess, in that sense, in relation to advocates processes. But just the fact that if we do the due diligence of like ensuring a steady stream of SIP issues are coming through advocates processes, then, you know, I think it'll, you know, you can maintain that autonomy while also being maybe one of the main engines of diversity in that way of governance. I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully.
Yep. Probably just keep trialing and testing and see.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, I know there's been a lot of coordination too in the women's clans. So I think it might be as simple as throwing in, you know, these that SIP angle, right, that we've been discussing today into some of what they're discussing. Maybe we have a whole proposal around it, right? And then from right there, we know it's going through these autonomous processes and hopefully spark something. Yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. All right. I think we're up to 7 minutes left here. There's, I guess, a little for folks who haven't seen. I guess I'll just advise folks to check out what's going on in some of those one pages. Like I said, we have some nice symbolism starting to emerge for our oral code of conduct protocols. A nice proposal there too for our active issues. So I think that's one of our latest ones. I won't go into that now with so much time left, but just see if we just leave the floor open and see if there's anything on folks' mind before we close, I guess. Kind of, kind of dig the free flowing dialogue. If there's anything on folks' mind. Yeah. We have some discussion points here to guide us as well. This advocates pivot, I know, is starting to come into form with, I think those extensions of the welcoming team hero will be an important piece here. Some building in of some intake forms that we used before, but now building it into the welcoming team, will hopefully help us with a pivot, right, towards more outward facing content, but also folks coming in. I think, Merrick, you've used some good language that should be included soon into that intake form around folks finding their voice, right? I think something around the lines of, in order to use your voice, you have to find it, right? And I think that's a beautiful way of speaking to some of the intrinsic incentive design that we have been trying to achieve. And so I think that'll be important language to include into the intake form. But a lot of it is still this inventory taking of intrinsic motivations, hidden capital, and things like this. Also trying to identify clan designation and these type of things. But yeah, we see, the D-Work board being important there, some of the efforts with Jenny and landing pages, Notion being important here. Yeah, I don't know. One thing I've been thinking about Hero Haas is on the Notion, we've started to scaffold out these different sections that folks might see when they first come in, points of capture potentially. And I don't know if we also wanted cards displayed and things like this. I don't know if we wanted, as a way for folks to contribute or explore discovery for what's going on in advocates or broader ecosystem. If we wanted to merge the tasks of the D-Work board with, what's going on out there in the ecosystem. Maybe a distinction in what is our explore section and contribute section. But folks being able to go right in with D-Work, allowing for distribution, smart contracts and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know if you guys want to speak to anything else. I know we had a good session, folks from the welcoming team. But yeah, it's been heavy on my mind as well, some of these things. I think we lost Haas, huh? But yeah, about 3 minutes left. Yeah, there's a few other things here. A lot of backlog, some overlap with the bounties, with some of the D-Work board stuff that we've been speaking to. Journeys is community funding streams, discussions that we've been having. I really advise folks to look at that one page who haven't seen it. It should be including Hero's recent diagram by now. If not, that'll be added soon, showing the flows very nicely. Yeah, but yeah, I'll let you guys go. I won't keep you guys too much longer if there's nothing else on folks' mind. Thank you kindly for the time. Hopefully, folks will felt we had some productive updates today. But yeah, if there's nothing else, we can close.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you, Hero.
Thank you, Harold.
Yeah, Merrick. Good to see you, Mike. Right.